No. It's getting warm.
That's me. It's hot air.
Got a jacket on.
No, what are you doing, man?
I wear a jacket on.
It's 90
Welcome
degrees.
to Sober.Coffee.
That's because you have no meat in your
chat,
bones.
sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee
Nice.
weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Good morning, Glenn.
Hey, Mike, I had to stand up, man. I stretched my legs a little bit. How you doing, Chief?
Good. Love
Good being here,
another
man.
coffee session.
Yeah, we have muffins and we have a guest.
Yeah, we do. We got Paul back in the studio again today.
Paul,
in the,
great to have
in
you
the
here,
coffee
man.
Shop. Yeah.
Nice to be back.
Yeah.
Great digs here.
Yeah, it's not bad. You know, we I'd encourage anybody if this is your first rodeo with Paul, go back and listen. We've got a couple episodes that Paul got a little deep and a little bit wide, and we really appreciate having you back again.
Yeah, I love using the word relentless. I probably used that word 10 times already with Paul, but it's quite obvious that, and hey, frankly, I mean, as much as I think I'm in the deep end swimming and, I am challenged. I am charged up and challenged to go deeper, to, learn more, to be more diligent, sharpen the pencil, and maybe even get another pencil, right?
Yeah.
So, Paul, thanks for that, man. That really rocks. Yeah. And as I mentioned in a prior episode, Paul comes out of, he's associated, he's doing a lot of cool things, but he's associated with Trinity Sober Living. So what I'd like to do before we dig into our session here is, Paul, I'll bounce it to you and just do a 38-second overview. I've been to Trinity. It's amazing. I mean, it's an amazing house. It's $1 million plus house, and it's great 5-star chef food. But man, that's not what it's about. My first rehab was in Laguna Beach, and I had the penthouse Pacific Ocean view, and the personal chef, and I went there because of that. But that's not what it's about. But it's a great environment. But I'd like to just bounce it to you, Paul, to just kind of talk about Trinity and the services and the benefit and value.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me back, guys. Appreciate that as well. So Trinity Sober Living was founded by Mike Owens, my partner. And essentially, we're at the Sober Living is at what they call a continuum of care. It's really at the end of the continuum of care. So you've been through residential, you've been to treatment, you've been to halfway houses, 3/4 houses, many of them. And it's about time to go back home, but you're not quite ready to go back home. So you come to Sober Living. And Sober Living is a place where you have a whole lot of freedom. You have a whole lot of opportunity to go out and work and do the things that you're supposed to do, get back into the game of life. But we still have some accountability. So we call it, regular and random drug and alcohol testing at the house. And you can be tested anytime, day or night. We also have little opportunities to be tested while you're away from the house. The house manager can call you and get tested while you're there. So the accountability is important. We have great structure. We have 3 meetings a week. That are mandatory Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday nights at 7 o'clock. Prior to that, we have what we call as our family dinner. Our house manager, we've been blessed with an awesome guy, Jose, love him. He's also a trained chef, and he cooks for the guys. It's like Thanksgiving 3 nights a week in there. It's crazy. And then we have accountability and instruction and support is the third part that we have, and you got a bunch of guys that are doing this thing, and they're working steps. We mandate that you go to 5 meetings a week. The 3 at the house are cool. With COVID, we all learned to adjust a little bit, but it's an opportunity for people to come there and basically transition back home. So we've got a 6,500 square foot house or something thereabout. We got 7 rooms. We have singles, private doubles, and triple occupancy bedrooms. And the only thing that differs is that in the house at night, are you in a room by yourself? Do you have 1 roommate or 2 roommates? We've got 4 full bathrooms. We got 2 laundry rooms. We got a gym we set up in the basement when all the gyms closed down. It's not like a full gym, but it's enough to get a good workout in. and it's in a nice environment that you can essentially, how's life going to look when I get out of all this lockdown stuff, and I don't mean COVID, I mean when you're getting out of institutionalized stuff and getting back home, and we want you to transition comfortably. So that's really our goal.
How does somebody get in contact about if they're listening and they maybe want to locate there?
So you can check out our website, trinitysoberliving.com. If you're interested in becoming a resident, there's a tab in there called Applications, and then a little click on a thing that says Getting Started. And it's just nuts and bolts thing. It's men only. We only have a men's house right now. We had a women's house. We had to close it due to politics. But we will be opening more houses soon. That's our goal, and we're working diligently towards doing that soon.
Man, that's awesome. So I found in my journey, I've lived in sober living. And, for me, it was not a lightning bolt, Paul. I did not come out of rehab and move forward and live, a great life, sober. For me, it's, I was a right-hander, as I like to say, right-hander my whole life, and I am still learning how to live as a left-hander. And sober living was very valuable to me. It was a community. I had enough proof where I tried to jump in and rebuild the world, and I just couldn't do it. And I needed to slow down and make it more, my recovery was more progressive than just a lightning bolt. And I went back to the world, and I, lived perfect ever since, So certainly valuable for that. Love connecting with you and with Mike and Trinity, and been there several times. And, the guys are just great guys, just really easy to connect with, and they're all trying to, learn how to live life sober. And as I like to say, it's a great environment to learn and live, learn about sobriety and live sobriety. So really cool.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
So listen, on topic today, we wanted to talk a little bit about in your first time you joined us at the coffee shop.
Yeah, but I only have, there's only like 312 topics we want to talk to Paul about. So I guess we have to figure out which one, right?
That's right. If you're listening, pull the car over because this will take hours. No. You had made a comment about you were relaying, parts of your journey, and you made a comment that the person you were working with asked you the question, do you want to stop drinking forever? And that just sent chills down my spine because honestly, when I came into the program, I just didn't want to drink that day. I just didn't want to. I wanted to avoid the pain of the previous day. That's all I cared about. And honestly, I thought maybe AA can teach me how to drink responsibly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I came
That's
in.
what I thought initially.
I came in with the safety net. And
I'll figure this out, man, so I can drink safely.
Right. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the reality is this is now how I live my life is with the programs and the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so let's kind of go back to that point if I could. And you made the determination early on that this was going to be a life changer.
Yeah. So, Paul, before we turn it over to you, if somebody had asked me, like my day one, right, Glenn, do you want to drink? Do you want to quit drinking forever? I probably would have said no. I mean, I'm talking 2003, right? So I'm really going back. I probably would have said, no, I know I need help. I know this is out of control. This is not what I want. But, I just want to figure this out a little bit, right? I mean, at some point I got to the point where I said, absolutely, I want to quit drinking forever. But there was a lot of evidence between point A and point B. So how about folks? I mean, we get a lot of newcomers. We're out there on Twitterville and all the social media, Instagram and all that stuff where people are, joining us in the coffee shop just to kind of put their toe in and explore sobriety. They know they've been drinking, and now they're all of a sudden faced with the question, do I want to quit forever? And sometimes I almost see panic, because it's almost like, do you want to break up with your best friend, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So help us walk. We're looking forward to unpacking this, on both sides of it. Thinking of newcomers and then also thinking of reality.
All right. Well, thank you. Those are good and important questions.
Big task.
It's one I was not approached with when I first came in either. And again, getting to know the information in the book is just critical. And I hate to sound like a broken record. I didn't understand how important that was. And, we don't know what we don't know. I read the book with the pair of glasses of read the book when I didn't know I was reading a textbook. And when that was explained to me, I looked at it differently. And that's why it's so important. So that question, do you want to quit drinking forever? It's in the book. And I paraphrase all the time, but I'm going to open it and turn to it because I want to, quote it exactly as it says in the book. However, starting early on, that they're warming you up for this. All the step work that's done up to chapter 7, where that's written in working with others, it's talking about all the other things, the important stuff that we need to know. What is alcoholism, mental obsession, physical allergy, its underlying spiritual malady? Where's my life unmanageable? And I didn't understand what that meant. And we get people walk in the rooms and they want to tell you their life's unmanageable. Here, my wife is divorcing me and I'm losing my job and I crashed a car and I lost my freedom and I don't have enough money and my kids hate me and all this other stuff. And that has nothing to do with it. They got together and they said, listen, if there was an easier, softer way to do this, we would have written that down. We wrote this down because this is the easiest, softest way. We compared our common experiences and we came up with this. And that's what they wrote down. So on page 52, it talks about where our lives have become unmanageable. And if you look at that, there's eight things in there, 8 questions. They're actually sentences, but I turn them into questions so that I can talk to the newcomer about that. So explaining what alcoholism is critical. Physical allergy, we talked about, I get thirstier. Mental obsession, my brain tells me stuff that isn't true. This underlying spiritual malady, they talk about in the book, they talk about, the spiritual bedevilments at the end of that chapter or that page on 52. And they talk about, it says we were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We were full of fear. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. So when I put those in questions, I say, you got any of that shit going on? And guys are able to say, yep. And maybe not check all the boxes, but they check many of them, okay? Now that I've identified with you what alcoholism is, it tells us in the book, it says, you need to diagnose yourself, okay? I can't tell you if you're an alcoholic or not, but if you can identify with this physical allergy, this mental obsession, and now the spiritual malady, these are the areas of my life that are screwed up, okay? Now I can identify as an alcoholic. Lack of power was the problem. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol. That's step 1, okay? If lack of power is the problem, getting the power must be the answer. So we immediately wish over to chapter 7, where it talks about working with others and how we do that, okay? So it tells us at the top of that page that practical experience shows us that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. Then it goes on to tell us how to work intensively with other alcoholics. And when we get to the next page, it tells us this. It says, wait for the end of a spree, or at least for a lucid interval. We talked about that before. Then let his family or friend ask him if he wants to quit for good. It says it right there. It says, ask him if he wants to quit for good and if he would go to any extreme to do so. If he says yes, then his attention should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered.
Beautiful. Yep.
I have a message of hope to bring to you because I am this guy. I'm not 2 months sober like we talked about in the last session, and I'm going to sponsor you. He doesn't know anything about this stuff, I promise you. Okay? But I do. And I can give you some hope now. It says, look, I get it. I've done what you're doing. I've been where you are, and I know how to get out. So if your commitment is forever, I'm all in. If you're not, it also tells us that, we should let you go. It tells us earlier on in the book, it says, alcohol is the great persuader. Dr. Silkworth talked about it. He said, frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. My pleading with you to put down drugs and alcohol is not going to work for the real alcoholic.
Right.
It worked for the dude I talked about in the other session who was standing up there in front of all those people. And his wife said, listen, if you don't do this, then I'm going to leave you. That was his higher power, and it worked. He just happened to hang around with AA for 20 years, and he looked like one of the guys from AA. He never did any of this stuff, okay? So we're looking for the alcoholic that is beyond human aid, We talk about that at the end of how it works all the time, the ABCs at the end. A, we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. C, what? God could and would if he were sought. Everyone recites that and joins hand in kumbaya and all that other shit at the end of how it works every time. And few people understand what they're saying, because a lot of those same people will say, make the doorknob your higher power, the tree branch your higher power, the chair.
Yeah, that drives me absolutely nuts.
Drives me crazy.
The doorknob thing.
Yeah,
come on, man.
It has nothing to do with it.
Right.
It talks about an omnipotent higher power. If you bring me your doorknob higher power and I take a sledgehammer to it, I'm going to make it look pretty silly. Doesn't look too omnipotent to me. So it's important for them to know what they're up against, and then it's important for us to know, are you willing to do this? Are you willing to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol? That's what it talks about. This isn't talking about hiding from it. On page 100 and 101, it talks about that. It says, as long as we're spiritually fit, we can do anything, it says, people say we're not supposed to be able to do. But right after that, it issues a warning. It says, alcohol is a subtle foe. If we let up on our spiritual program of action, it says, you're in trouble. Mm-hmm. Okay? I do not live in fear of alcohol and drugs. I don't. I do not hide from it. I don't avoid it. It tells me I want to one. I don't have to, because I am spiritually fit. Okay? There are people say you can't have it in your house. You can't be around people that drink. You can't do this, that, and the other. That's not true. It tells us exactly that in the book. It says we face this every day. It says you could go to the Greenland ice cap and an Eskimo would show up with a bottle of scotch and ruin everything. Mm-hmm. Okay? So what it's telling me is there's a difference between fear and respect, okay? I have a great deal of respect for alcohol. I do not live in fear of it, okay? Same thing, I used to fight a little bit when I was young, and Mike Tyson, I love Mike Tyson. I always share a story. I watch young Mike Tyson. I watch this guy just obliterate his opponents all the time, okay? And I would go and I watch these fights. I'm like, God, he's awesome to watch and everything. And then my mind says to me, you know what? If I get in the ring with Mike Tyson, he is going to kick my ass. It is going to be over in seconds, okay? Therefore, I have no reason to ever get in the ring with Mike Tyson. I have a great deal of respect for that man and his abilities. Okay? Do I live in fear of Mike Tyson? Absolutely not.
Because you're not in the ring.
I have no reason to fear him. There's no reason I should ever put myself in that position. It's the same thing with alcohol and drugs. Drugs and alcohol never jumped into my body. I always invited it. I always assisted it. So as long as I don't live in fear of that, but I have a great deal of respect, if I do that, you're going to win. I don't want to do that again. Okay? Fear and respect, two very, very different things. And explaining that to the newcomers, hey, listen, man, you can have a life beyond your wildest dreams. Let's get busy.
Well, it seems to me that you're not afraid of scaring them away. I mean, you're there to confront the life and death situation, and that's kind of the moment of truth. I mean, that's the moment of truth. Are you ready? Are you ready to give up anything, like you shared in your previous sessions? Will you give your whole pile of stuff away to never have a drink ever again? But you're not afraid to scare somebody away if they're not ready.
It's our job. It's our job is to tell them. It talks about on page 25 in our book. It says that we have passed into this region from which there is no return through human aid. Okay. It says that there is no middle of the road solution. If there's no middle of the road solution, it says that we got to make a decision here. Okay. If I can't be half in and half out, it means you got to decide. All right? Because if you're all in, I'm all in with you. Mm-hmm. I will do everything I can. I'll do everything in my power to get you through these steps so that you too can have this spiritual understanding, this spiritual awakening, a new spiritual experience, a new relationship with a higher power. And then, like any good parent knows, the two greatest gifts you can give your kids, what are they? Roots and wings. Right? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with the sponsee. I'm going to give you great understanding. I'm going to give you a great road to recovery, and then I'm going to cut you loose. And I want you to go out and carry this message to the alcoholic that still suffers. Are you going to stumble? Absolutely. That's what I'm here for. Call me up. You're sponsoring a guy for the first time. Tell him, you know what? This is the first time I ever sponsored anyone. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But I will share my experience with you. I had a great sponsor. I know that I can go to him and I can bounce this stuff off of him. Are you comfortable with that? Who's going to say no to that? Right. You got a new guy that's dying over here and he's willing to come to you for help. Hey, if you got to go over and ask for help, fine. Here's what I won't do. I won't bullshit you. I'm not going to tell you a lie, okay? I'm going to tell you the truth. And I tell everyone I meet that. I said, at the end of this talk, I said, you are going to know the truth. You may not like it, but you damn sure are going to know it, okay? You do with that what you want, okay? I know you guys are looking at me like, it's passion. I'm not armed. Well, actually, I am. But I get that because I know I was there. And I was at that place where alcohol and drugs just weren't doing it for me. I knew I couldn't do it anymore. But if I had this understanding early on in recovery, it would have changed my first 5 years. Okay.
Yeah, but Paul, there's so much coddling, like for example, and hey, you know what? Full disclosure, I have told my story. I am relapse king. I've been to 75 plus detoxes. I mean, I am the relapse king. And when I came back to the room, I wanted love. I wanted coddling. Glenn, it's okay. Come on, Glenn. Welcome back. Hey, just get back. Wait, get back in it, right? And nobody really kicked my ass. But one of the guys in our room who relapsed, drove himself to Silver Cross Hospital to get help and died in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. It was that day that I said, look, this coddling bullshit is over. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm really kick somebody's ass, but hey, man, relapse is very dangerous.
Oh.
And for me, I did a relapse, presentation on relapse, and the slide that talked about, the relapse, I had a big fire alarm. Because that's what it was. That's what it became for me, is how dangerous a relapse was and how I was looking at it. And yet the rooms are like, oh, hey, Paul, welcome back. It's okay. It's not okay.
And it's worse than that because it's not only this coddling.
And I know you've been in those situations helping many, many, many guys who relapse. You've been to the hotels and the hospitals and I heard previous episode, the 4 restraints, the 5 restraints.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and it's much worse than that. And again, I love AA, and I always want to lead with that. I want people to understand I have a passion for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is a lot different than a lot of what we see out there in meetings these days.
So maybe about how people are running AA.
Yeah, I mean, it all changed. I mean, you can look at the track record. The Grapevine decided that it'd be a good idea to expand our fellowship, and we're going to do that by changing the format of our meetings. It happened in the end of the 50s and beginning of the 60s, where they were talking about we're going to have these topic and discussion meetings, and we're gonna invite people to talk about their stuff. And what's happened is it's turned into fucking group therapy. Yep. Okay, and you got a bunch of sick people sitting around that can't answer their own issues, and they're trying to help someone else in the room with their stuff. And it's not right. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. It's wrong. And one of the things I heard the other day, I heard this. I was with a bunch of people in a little class I'm taking right now, and I heard someone say, well, relapse is part of recovery. Man, my head almost popped off. That is a saying that I hear in AA all the time. Yep. Relapse is part of recovery. That's a freaking lie. I have a terrible mouth. I'm sorry. That is a lie. Okay? Relapse is not part of the recovery. And then I get someone say, well, it's in the big book. I said, you know what? I said, show it to me. I know that book. I know it's in there somewhere. I said, I know what you're talking about. And you are misquoting our big book. It's on page 120 in 2 Wives. Okay, it talks about that. It says, while we it's better that a man doesn't relapse at all. Sometimes people do. Okay, walking into AA and telling a newcomer relapse is part of recovery is a permission slip for them to go out and try it again. And it's wrong. Okay, that's why this question, are you ready to quit forever? Okay, if you relapse, does that mean you can't come back? No, you're welcome back. 75 times, God bless you. I'm glad 76 got you here. Okay, but that's not. Well, I stopped
counting at 75. It might have been who knows what number.
But that's not everybody's journey, And it's important for you to know. If you'd known this information at time 20, might it have changed your path?
Absolutely.
See, maybe.
Absolutely would have.
Yeah, probably, maybe. I mean, I don't know. What I do know is that when I was growing up, and I grew up with alcoholism all around me, my mom came over, her side of the family came, she was a Delaney. She came over from the Big Island. And, it's like, you're required to drink over there. I had alcoholism throughout my entire mother's side of the family, and many of my aunts, uncles, and cousins had it. And we had these great big Catholic gatherings, and all the Christmas and all the holidays and birthdays and all that shit. And there'd be certain aunts and uncles and cousins that would be, messed up or passed out over there. And all these little kids are walking up, and I'm one of them. I'm looking, I'm like, what's wrong with Uncle Dick over there, And, oh, no, just go outside and play. their answer to that was, we're going to ignore it. We're not going to talk about it. And when I got into the depths of my addiction, I knew my family was not a place to go because we don't talk about that. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm so vocal about this. I talk at the schools. I go to the health departments and talk to the high school classes. And I say, listen, guys, you know what? You need to understand something. There is a connection. There's a scientifically proved connection. Something Dr. Silkworth thought was right. And we have science to prove it today. There's a genetic predisposition to the possibility that you can be an alcoholic or an addict if it's somewhere in your family. Mm-hmm. And I tell kids this, and I say, listen, I'm not telling you that don't drink and don't go out and experiment and, do whatever drugs you're going to do. Not promoting it, but I get it. What I'm telling you is, if you find yourself getting into trouble, help's available. Okay? I didn't know that. And it probably kept me drunk. Not probably. It could have kept me drunk for years beyond when I might have gotten into this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, great point.
So what happens with, I've got an anonymous Twitter account focused on sobriety, and I had a guy reach out to me, right, and I just, he dabbled for 3 months before he even got in the rooms, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, he just was dipping his toe in the water. Then he finally got it, and he just celebrated 18 months and just turned his life around, right? I really feel that if I had said, hey, man, are you willing to quit forever, that he would have said no, and then just turned around and walked away. Mm-hmm. So is there a happy medium? And if so, where is it?
Okay. That's right out of our book, by the way. Everything we talk about is in the book.
Yeah, right.
I've already flushed through. I need to sharpen that pencil.
So it says alcohol is a great persuader in our book. It also talks about the experiment. It says, step over to the nearest bar room and try some controlled drinking. Now, you have to take into account when this was written, okay? And it's not ever saying that if you know you're an alcoholic, you should go and try this experiment. That's not what it's saying. It's saying back then, and even now, there are people that aren't sure. Okay, so now if I've explained what alcoholism is, mm-hmm. and you go out and you do this experiment, it says try some controlled drinking. It says try to have 1 or 2 drinks. What's going on? Okay, it's right in there. So it says, I'm going to a bar to watch a football game. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna do this experiment. I'm gonna have 2 drinks. Okay, and I know a football game is 4 quarters, so I can have 1 drink in the first half and 1 drink in the second half. And okay, that first drink now, okay, 1 half is 2 quarters. So I'm gonna have half of the drink in 1 quarter and half of the drink in the other quarter. So I'm going through all these machinations so I can try and figure out how I'm gonna nurse this drink into 1 half. Okay, I'm already pissed off. This mental obsession is already on. My brain is telling me, man, that was a bad idea committing to this.
Yeah, and if you have to control something, isn't it already out of control?
Yeah, you can't. So that's it in the book. It talks about control and enjoy. Yeah. If I'm controlling my drinking, I am not enjoying it.
No way, man.
Okay? And if I'm enjoying my drinking, you're not enjoying my company. That was the warnings I always got. You can't come to Thanksgiving if you're going to drink too much. You can only have 2 drinks. My wife didn't understand frothy emotional appeal. She didn't know that the first one is the one that gets you. Okay, she's not allowing me to have just enough drinks. Okay, she thinks she's being kind and loving and you can have 1 or 2. My brain is on fire. That tells me the phenomenon of craving kicks in as soon as I introduce drugs and alcohol to my body, and not before. They go over that many, many times. Okay, the phenomenon of craving cannot occur until I put drugs or alcohol in my body. Okay, everything else is the thought. Okay, and it says that when this happens, we recoil as from a hot flame. Those are thoughts. You have people sitting in a bar drinking club soda with all their buddies who are drinking at the hockey game because they're 5 seconds into recovery and think it's a safe place to be. Right. And after a while, they get drunk and they call me up and they say, I don't know what happened. The craving came over me. I said, that's not true. You're a fucking idiot, okay? You were not in a spiritually connected place where you can be and have an understanding you can't drink anymore, and you thought you would test the waters. You thought you'd walk the plank, and you lost, okay? So this isn't about a craving. You didn't have a craving. What you had were a lot of thoughts. They overwhelmed you. That mental obsession was on, and you got a body that says, you know what? You can go sneak a shot. You go to the bathroom, grab one on the way by, no one will know. Until what happens? The phenomenon of craving occurs, and it's like, I gotta go to the bathroom again. And again.
Every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm here because I need to learn. I'm here because I appreciate my sobriety more than anything else in my life. I've also come to the realization that without my sobriety, I don't have the life I have today. And the phrase goes, if you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. What are my next certain steps that I need to be taken to make sure I don't put myself, that I'm in check, my spirituality's in check, that I'm putting myself in the right environment? What are the things I need to do to get what it is that you have?
So last session I started and didn't finish that process, and I should have, and I apologize. So the first 3 steps are conclusions of the heart and the mind. Okay, and that means that you know what lack of power is, you know what getting the power looks like, and step 3, you make a decision. Mm-hmm. That step should take very, very little time. If
I spent a year and a half on that step, by the way.
Okay, so here, let me run this.
But all it says is make a decision. I wanted to figure it all out, and shame on me.
So no, not necessarily. And this is another place that gets me going, because if that's true, either you didn't know what you were up against because no one explained it to you, or you didn't want it. Those are the only 2 options. Then you didn't know what you were up against.
Right.
If you didn't understand what lack of power looked like, how can you make a decision that you want power? It's impossible, right? So having alcoholism explained to me, it changed that thought process. Like, lack of power is a problem, and I understand it. Now I get it. If getting the power is the answer, and for me, I struggled. I came into this thing, I was pissed off at God. But it said, have a willingness to believe in a power greater than yourself. Okay? It doesn't say that you need to identify what that power is. What it's saying is, if you can just have this willingness to believe that there is a power greater than you, whatever it is, we don't need to define it. You don't have to draw a picture of it. You don't have to do anything else with it. All I want you to do is this: have a willingness to believe it might be true. And if you can answer that question yes, and it says, let's move on. Let's keep going, and let's get to the end of this thing. And let's see if at the 12th step, you can, having had a spiritual awakening is the result of working these steps. So it's saying, let's get going. So steps 1, 2, and 3, conclusions of the heart and the mind. Okay? Steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are all action steps. All right? Step 10 is the culmination of steps 4 through 9. It talks about that when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. We go out and we make our amends immediately. If you go to the 10th step in the book, it summarizes steps 4 through 9 right there for us. Okay? Step 11 is about improving your relationship with your higher power. Okay? That's our 11th step is all about continuing this journey by growing our spiritual self. This book is littered with phrases about you have to be spiritually fit. You got to be spiritually strong. If you do this and your spiritual health is strong, you'll be okay. And then the 12th step is about carrying this message and helping other people. So working through the steps a bunch of times, true, but I live in steps 10, 11, and 12. That because I take one word out of each of those last 3 steps: continue, improve, practice. Okay. Step 10 is steps 4 through 9 all crammed together. If I'm going out and I'm making amends when I've wronged or harmed somebody, then I'm going through 4 through 9. And at night, I get to go and call my sponsor, call another person in the program and say, hey, man, I did some shit and it was bad and it was wrong. And I prayed about it. Then I went out and I made my amends. And now I'm talking to you about it. Steps 4 and 5, I'm getting all that done. And then I'm going to continue to go out and work with others. And I'm going to grow my spiritual life in 11 and 12. You know, and it's incredible that we have the opportunity to work these steps continuously without dredging through each one, back on step 1 again. You know, how long have you been sober? Oh, 30 years. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Seriously. You know, what do you want to do? You know, step 1 is turned into your history. Let's write down, all the money you spent or all the damage you caused. Or let's talk about all the bad shit you did while you were drunk. You guys talk about experience, strength, and hope. My experience today is that I am able to work the 12 steps and see a difference. My strength today is a God, a higher power in my life that I didn't believe existed when I walked into this thing. And my hope for today is that if I did it, you can do it too. That's my experience, strength, and hope. It's not about these freaking war stories that go on for freaking ever.
That's a beautiful thing.
It's awesome.
Yep, beautiful thing. So my takeaway, if I took my notes right, is to continue to grow, to improve, and to practice these principles.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And practice the principles, not just practice not drinking. Practice the principles.
Yeah. So, Mike, and if you feel like that, your step work was not maybe up to snuff, it's cool to go back and do it again. There's nothing wrong with that. Having a different understanding of it.
That is my takeaway.
Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I went back and did all my steps again when someone explained to me what I'm supposed to be doing. Again, I had a kind, loving, beautiful human being telling me that basically meetings are the answer. And I had a notebook, a 5-subject notebook. I think I filled every page in there for my 4th step. He fell asleep like 4 times listening to me. I mean, it's crazy.
Awesome. That is
you know,
the best.
and it didn't have to be like that.
Yeah, it's funny. What I've shared is, I mean, today I might know, and I'm just making these numbers up, I might know 30% of what's out there about AA and the steps and the big book. And from the 30%, probably 25% I learned from going through the steps myself. And then a majority of what I know today is from reworking and working the steps with other people. And that really juices me. But, man, I'll tell you what, my key takeaway is I need more. I need to sharpen my pencil better. I need to do more and maybe rework the steps again. No, not maybe. Let me take that word maybe out. And I need to rework the steps again with a level of diligence. And, I look forward to plugging into you, Paul, outside of the room, just getting some insights. And, man, I'll tell you what a powerful.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Powerful sessions, man.
Can I close with a bit of a commercial, though? And because I think even the commentary about the event is going to be gold for people to hear. I participated in a workshop a few years ago called Ungarbled, the 12 Steps Ungarbled, and it was led by Paul and his partner. And I'll tell you, it was a 5-hour workshop, but I walked away from there with a clear understanding that my recovery is going to be found in the principles and that it doesn't do it justice what it was. But I'd like you to talk about it, and part of why I want to talk about it is because these events are held. Is there a website for Ungarbled, or
the answer is yes? It just isn't working right now. So yeah, we got the domain name and haven't really populated it with information. But what you're talking about is my buddy Steve, and actually Steven and another guy started this Ungarbled thing before I met up with him. Steve and I have been doing it together for many years, and we've got this awesome form. We got a PowerPoint presentation, like you said, it's a 5-hour presentation, and we break down the 12 steps as it's laid out in the big book. We have handouts that go through every single slide that we put up there. We explain what it means. We explain how they came to this understanding. We go thoroughly through a 4-step, and we have a separate 4-step section so that people know how to do a 4-step. It takes the fear out of it, and we have had tremendous response from this thing. We have done it in many places all over Illinois, Indiana, up in Wisconsin. We were able to go to Nashville and put it on down there. We were down in New Orleans and did an incredible turnout there. We had, I think, 350, 400 people in the room down there. And you have people all the time that the response to it is incredible. We have people that have been in this program for years and years or dozens of years and come up and say, I've never heard this stuff before. Where did you find it? Mm-hmm. Which is my first experience. And I said, it's in this big book. I just didn't know it was there. Right. And I
awesome.
every single slide we have on there has a page number attached to it. We say, we're not making any of this stuff up. It's right here.
Right. Yeah, it's good stuff. I would really encourage it. And if you want, reach out. What's the email address for the podcast, Glenn?
It's podcast at Sober.Coffee.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and keep you posted if there's events in the area. Just email us if you're interested in an event. And, kind of talking, as we wrap up here, kind of talk about the economics, of life, right? Because I was taught to always follow the money. The money trail doesn't lead back up to Paul when he does these workshops, and the money trail doesn't lead back up to to Mike and Glenn when you donate to Sober.Coffee. We're just putting it back in the cost of production to get the word out. To
Absolutely.
Help the next struggling alcoholic.
Paul, thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, Paul,
powerful.
Thanks so much.
Real quick, we have our big book study currently is a hybrid meeting on Saturdays, and if anyone wants to Zoom that, we can maybe put that on the website, user ID and a password, because we break down that big book, and it's a 26-week process to go through the whole cycle, we call it, which is the first 164 pages, including Dr. Silkworth, the doctor's opinion, and Dr. Bob's nightmare, which is the first story in the back of the book. And if you want to join us via Zoom, there's a way to do that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Paul, thanks so much for being here.
We'll post that. Paul, thanks, Chief.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, man.
All right.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.